Hello, everyone. So today with me is Mohit, a good friend, and probably I have known Mohit since 2015. Mohit, if you remember Summer of Hacks, you won that thing, and probably
Yes.
that's
Yes. Thanks, Abhinav, first of all, for having me here. Yeah, I definitely remember that summer of hacks. It was a great context, and Salesforce was evolving at that time. It was fun night. I remember we did not sleep whole night. We were just hacking the code,
right.
and luckily we kind of won. So yes, that reminds me of those good old days of doing hacks and all, and waking up whole night. That was great.
Right, right. Do you remember the name of the colleagues? I think you were with two other people,
Yes,
one
yes.
lady and one guy.
Yes. So Mukul, shout out to Mukul Goyal if he is gonna listen this podcast, right? Mukul and then Rashmi. So Rashmi works for Salesforce for customer success organization. I haven't been in touch with her a lot. And then Mukul is in Australia these days, so I keep in touch sometimes with him.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's where we met. I fought hard. I lost, but yeah, I think Mohit and his team, they were the first prize winner along with two others. But do you again quickly remember what did you build at 2015? What
Yes,
was
so
that
this
thing?
is this is very interesting question, and I think about that application always actually, how things have evolved. We were kind of building AI. If I think about it, so our application was very simple. So Salesforce, right? It has all of these tools for lead management, and then for sales management using accounts, opportunities, and then it has tools for order management too, where you can add products, and then it has tools for knowledge management. So we had all these tools, and we saw, okay, how people use these tools today. And we thought that's a challenge actually for anyone, because they'll have to create leads, they'll have to go hand it off to sales to do the opportunity management, and then how can sales access all these knowledge that Salesforce provides? I mean, those days knowledge articles was very new. So our point was, we have all these different processes, how can we automate all of them and make the experience really good, right? So I don't remember what we called. I think we called Sales Booster. Now that I remember, Sales Booster was the name of our application.
Probably yes, yeah.
Yeah. So what our application did was, it provided a really intuitive mobile interface. So, anybody using it has, first of all, access to all the information, right? And then they can basically use these tools to go from like direct lead management to the order management with simple clicks, three, four clicks. And now, if I think about it, it was kind of AI. Of course, there was human intervention, and at that time there was no AI. But
Right.
realistically, that's what AI is doing. It's kind of simplifying that all of these processes, so there is minimal human intervention and sort of automating. I call it meta automation actually, because it's not just automation, it's meta
Yeah.
automation now, or agentic automation, right?
Agentic is the new word, right?
Yeah, agentic is the trending word these days. But yeah, that was our application, and think about it, I don't think we ever published on App Exchange. We got so busy, and at that time, honestly, we didn't have a lot of business knowledge like now that we have all these knowledge to understand like how we could have made that app like a really good App Exchange app. um, Again, as freshers, or as I would call newbies, right? We did not
Right.
know the marketing side of it, the sales side of it, to make that a huge deal, right?
Right. We were
But yeah,
all developers at that time, so it was more of
yes,
an excitement to build something out and get it
yes,
moving.
we were just building out without realizing the business value out of it. But there was a clear business value, and that's why we won it. The judges
True.
actually kind of saw that, and they were like, they graded us and they gave us more points, I think, because they clearly saw the business use case for it.
True, true. So with that hackathon, and now you are in US, and you actually switched a lot of gears
Yeah.
from I think working in Deloitte, then in I think Accenture, no,
PwC, yeah,
PwC, yeah,
PwC, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
into different shoes altogether. What's that transition like?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask. Consulting organizations, and true respect to all those consulting organizations, we need more of them actually, because
True.
They have people with different diverse backgrounds and diverse skill set. And realistically, when you think about enterprise application, they require all these skill sets to create a good experience or a good user experience for the users, right? Because it requires front end skills, back end skills, you need domain skills, you need business analysts, whatnot, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that is required, and shout out to those organizations, right? So it was great time working for Deloitte and PwC, and it's always fun working for these organizations. But truly what I wanted to do was not like consult with clients. Like, okay, clients bring up a problem and I kind of give them solution, and over the time I realized, what, I'm doing the same work again and again. Probably the objects are changing, the business scenario is changing, but all I'm doing is telling them, hey, you need flows, you need triggers, and writing these triggers, you need different objects, you need these processes and flows. So I was like, okay, you know what, I need to do something different, and that's where I came across this ISV world, where just think about a solution from not just like one problem perspective, but like how can you create a solution that's reusable,
Across
deployed
different
as a
orgs.
product. Yeah,
Yeah.
product mindset, right? So I wanted to get into that product mindset, and luckily, when I was here, one of the organizations, Code Science, which was evolving, although it was consulting, but they were consulting for these big ISV companies. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, this looked interesting, let me go and build it. So I was like an engineer and then architect there. While I was building there, I kind of realized, hey, I need to be in the enablement, like enable more people, because that is one of my passion. Although I was, sort of doing this on the side here and there, where I was like, creating these blog posts or writing these articles, which I saw had a definite marketplace. Like I could see people using my blog post and creating solutions. So I was like, how about doing this for the full time? And while I was at Dreamforce, Peter Cheatham, my manager previously,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just went to him and talked about it. And he was like, you know what? We have a role here. Would you like to interview with us at Salesforce? I was like, "Yeah, this sounds exciting. Let me introduce myself and see." It kind of worked out at that time, right? I kind of moved and transitioned myself into this developer evangelist role, where I come up with these creative use cases, create content out of it for the community, and just educate them on our products, give them more ideas on what they can do. At the same time, take all this feedback and channel into our R&D and product teams, right? So this was really interesting. I thought I'll get bored after a year. I'll be honest, like after a year or two, right? But things kept changing, and kind of still going on with that. So it's been an interesting journey, a lot of learnings as well. When I joined Advocacy, I was like, this is going to be really easy, because all we are doing is tutorials and how to's, etc. But then I discovered that, wait, you can't be so disorganized. There's a lot of in this whole ever changing technology, you still need to be organized, you need to know how to produce content. So that's where I got into like content world, and I think I spent considerable amount of time, like maybe 2 years, just trying to understand, like, how do I message it out to these developers, like what works.
Right.
I went did
Make
some
them
live.
understand the whole thing in an easy way.
Yeah, I went to the live stream, tried to do live streams. I thought, okay, this works for some type of audience, but then there are experienced people who will definitely not have time to watch an hour video. Maybe they need condensed videos. Some like to read, so blogs, right? So I kind of explore different ways, and what is interesting or what keeps me like still moving when I wake up is like I have a lot of people who kind of follow me, and I need to be showing up to them and producing, making their job easier, right? Making sure that I'm creating this content which they can easily consume, understand, and it kind of sparks ideas for them, for their businesses, or for whatever developer. One thing
Right.
about me was I came from true development background, right? So in the Stack Overflow days, we used to like Stack Overflow a lot of these things. You run into an error and you're troubleshooting with your IDE. I'm like, man, I want to go home after doing this piece of work, and but I'm still stuck because there's no way out. I mean, my code is not working. So I went through that journey of what it feels like to be a developer, right?
Hmm.
So I had that mindset, and when I joined this role, I was like, okay, if I could save that developer who is supposed to go home at this time and still kind of battling with their code, that's a win for me, right?
Right. Right. I think many must be blessing you for the Stack Overflow thing, because that's probably a hidden story now. Stack Overflow was a thing at one time when ChatGPT was not there,
Yeah, Stack
and
Exchange.
people
Yeah.
actually, yes, sorry, Stack Exchange, salesforce.stackexchange.com,
Yes. Yeah.
and you had a serious reputation. Probably your blogs and Stack Overflow was the reason you got into the MVP program. Which year it was? Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah. So I became MVP in 2016. And the reason why I used to love Stack Exchange is somehow the problems that I used to face, I could see 100 more developers facing that. So they
Right,
just come over there and they're like, hey, this bits of code did not compile, or I wrote this class with this interface, but then I'm getting this cryptic error. How do we solve this? So if I had solution for that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna share this because it's good, and it's gonna help me as well, because I'll run again probably. As humans, we can only remember so many things.
right,
And that's
right.
why I was just documenting all those things. And I didn't know people probably might have used this to train AIs and stuff, but at that point I didn't know that, hey, this
Yeah, there
is
was no AI then. Actually, the de facto was Stack Exchange.
yeah.
Previously, people used to ask on Twitter, but then the Stack Exchange thing kicked up. And I think just like Reddit, they have very clean reputation system also. Nobody can do no nonsense mostly on Stack Exchange. So that
Yeah.
worked pretty well. But I think with that being said, like the people who are processing this information, if we see your transition, so you're actually into advocacy already. You're
Yes.
trying to evangelize the platform, solve problems, and this role is a bigger extension to what you have done in past, because you probably enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, see, again, I did enjoy a lot of it. I miss, being able to code 100% of the times. There in that role, if I imagine, right, that was really nice time. At Code Science, what I was doing was just putting my earpods, put some music, right? And then I'm on my own. I know the business needs. I'm just plain coding, looking at the documentation a lot of times using IDE, just coding, and my job is done, And then if I get some free time, maybe writing these blogs or using Stack Exchange, whatnot, right? It was fun times for sure, right? And I got into content. I would say that's also another area that I enjoy, is like content writing. So in this role, I get to do both things. Okay, like content plus a little bit of coding. I would say I still code 40% of my time. Speaking of coding, last night I was awake till 2 p.m. and I was sorry 2 a.m. my time, right? So I was coding and I was
2 a.m.
enjoying. After a long time, I was like, okay, man, I'm writing Swift. I was writing Swift language, by the way. Not Apex.
Something
So I was
coming in mobile.
Yes, yes. So I have
Okay,
a mobile demo that is coming up
okay.
shortly. I'll post that. How to use Agentforce in your mobile
Mobile
application.
apps.
So I was coding, and all the development workflow and all has changed, which of course we can talk about it um, drastically. And what kept me going? Again, what kept me going at that time was trying to find solution to the problem, right? What kept me going this time too was the same thing, and that's why I think developers are going to be here for long. It's one of the things that people are like, should we get into development? I'm like, this is definitely the right moment to get started with coding. I'm learning two languages these days. In my free time, whatever. Now I have wife and kids and all. Life changes, as you know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, but when I find time, right, what I'm doing these days is more fun. Like holidays, we had 2 weeks of holidays here in Christmas time, right? So
Right.
what I was doing there was like building Python, really learning PyTorch. I got into PyTorch and TensorFlow, and I was like, this is really awesome. I have never done it. Imagine learning PyTorch 4 years back, right? And learning Swift 4 years back. It would have been a challenge for me, I'll tell you. And AI is actually fixing that. I use Cursor for some of these languages. Like the Cursor is an IDE tool. And it's fascinating because what I'm doing is prompting, right? But when it spits out the code, I'm genuinely curious now. Okay, I want to understand, like for example in Swift last night it created two files pretty instantaneously, like this delegate file and the
Right.
view file. I was like, how is these two talking together? And I could ask Chat GPT clearly, it kind of explains me, and then I go back to the Claude and it kind of explains me, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to implement one from scratch myself. I don't need both of these now. Let me build a simple hello world application, very simple, and try to understand this. So then I go off, I totally disconnect from the social media, everything. I
That's
just
very
open my
important.
Swift file. Yeah, Swift
Yeah,
file. I go here, create these two files, see how it's working, just trying to write code. And now I'm like, I'm not going to use this chat GPT thing because I know it's going to give me the answer. And then I'm not going to learn anything about this, not truly
right.
understand the meaning of every single statement that is out there here. So I went to a bookstore, kind of like a library. I go there, pick up one of
Mastering
the
Swift in 24 hours or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like.
something like that. Yeah, I still remember that book. I just go there, I pick it up, read a couple of sentences here and there, and then I just use my Xcode. I'm I'm building, and end of the day was fun. It was able to give me solution, and then I go back, ask ChatGPT again, ask it, hey, can you optimize this, and then it comes up with a solution. Now I'm more curious. Why did it go and
Right,
do this thing? You see, as long as you're curious, you're having fun, I think it's okay. I and
right,
the reality is at some point, and this happened today, this morning, is like I was like, okay, I need to submit this video really quick. I need all the buttons to be working here and there. So I have my agent, it's all working fine, and then but then I want to make like a little modification to the code. I want to create that end chat button where I click, and the chat history wipes up. There's a delete API call to do that. So I was like, maybe chat GPT or my cursor with Claude can do this. So I go there, ask it, and to my surprise, it's stuck in the loop. It's not able to go ahead, not able to understand anything from that time. And then I'm like, okay, let me grind. From here,
right.
I know this is not something that AI is going to help me. I can prompt it in 100 ways now, but I know that it is not
Debugging, sometimes you
it's
have to
not
do.
understanding,
Right,
fundamental, it's not able to reason, right? So let's go back to basics. I look at every piece of the code then, and then I'm like, aha, wait, it is not able to give the answer because there is this hidden dependency that is not there in my thing, because that
hmm,
is a dependency in the hidden file. And then I quickly discover that file, and I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, here's the hidden file, here are the definition. Now go fix all my compilers. Just fixes it. And then I'm like, okay. So you see, I don't, it will be efficient. Like, all developers are going to be efficient. They're going to be using this AI techniques for sure. I don't think they will be able to, somebody is able to throw away these tools just like that, because somebody else will learn and they will be faster, right? So like, it's going to affect the productivity if you're not going to use these tools. So there's going to be balance, all sorts of things, but I think the core will be understanding and reasoning, and that we as a humans have to a larger extent.
right. And
uh,
the part which you said, it has actually very important points. The challenge which we are seeing as a company with freshers, especially, we
yeah,
have a set of assignments in Salesforce. Now, like the way you approach ChatGPT and way many of the freshers are approaching is they put the assignment in ChatGPT, get the solution, and they just execute. Let's say it's a LWC. If it started working, okay, yeah, I'm done with the assignment. Like, let it be. Whatever the logic is, whatever it is, they even don't know when they are cross questioned. So I'm glad, like, I will probably clip this part of the podcast and will put it out, that probably
yeah,
you have to read the thing. And the
yes,
book thing which you reminds me, like when I did Objective C in 2013. So I
nice,
used to actually get a book and I need to at least finish half of it to get a gist and get the tips out of it. Like, how should I program it right? So that is actually out of window for many lately, especially with like this AI. But I really loved that part that you quoted, that there is a solution, but still you try to debug, analyze, and get this thing moving on your own, which is very
yeah,
important.
yeah. See, what is important to understand, and this is for all of your viewers, developers specifically in this era to understand, is, see, when somebody gives you a task, right, to accomplish it, you need to be in a position that if things change in the future, in terms of requirements or in terms of ask, or imagine tomorrow, chat gpt goes away for some reason, you still need to be able to do your work and deliver solution, right? That is one fundamental thing to understand, is like, when you are submitting the work, it's not chat gpt's work, it's your work. And that is core to understand here. It's your work, it's your credibility, right? So I mean, you can use any tools of your choice, but ultimately, I think what is going to be a factor that's going to make you 10x engineer compared to just the engineer is a 10x engineer understands things from fundamental aspect. Okay. So you need to build that fundamental understanding of the system in your mind rather than that understanding with the chat gpt, and that's long term going to be effective. Because if things are stuck, like if imagine chat gpt is not able to solve the problem, you cannot go back to your client or your product team and say, hey, chat gpt is not able to solve this problem, right? So, and as long as you keep solving the problems, your clients will see value in having you.
Right,
So
right. I've
that
seen
is the
people who start
fundamental thing.
sweating when the problem comes because then the
Yes.
basic hello world is gone. So,
Yes, yes. So that is an important thing to understand for all of the developers today. And I think, marketers will do their work to hype things up, but you as a developer, you should know what is right and what is wrong. And you are the groundwork there, right? I mean,
right,
marketers are not building systems. You are building those systems. So that is very important to understand is
right.
the
But
whole
Mohit,
idea.
I think I was planning to come to this part of discussion later in the podcast. But as we're
Yeah.
talking about developers and
Yes.
how these things are moving with AI agents, and you said like developers are important. Some people say like sooner or later IDs will be very capable to do a lot of things, and that's actually happening also with VS
Yeah.
Code and every. So where do you see these careers moving? Like if I take an example of let's say Salesforce developer, what should a new guy do, or what should an experienced guy do now to build that skill set and go ahead from there?
That's a very good question, actually, and this requires a lot of thought process. Okay, so first solve for experienced developers, right? Like myself, yourself, Abhinav, right? We are all experienced. We have been there in the ecosystem for long, right? We know how to write Apex and LWC and these programming languages that Salesforce provides. And luckily, this Agentforce, I mean, end of the day, it has actions which are nothing but these flows and Apex. And of course, now there's a new thing called prompt templates, which is how do you prompt an LLM too.
Hmm.
So I think what is important for us is to understand these tools, Agentforce for developers and ChatGPT and Claude. What are its boundaries? Where they are lacking, right? So we are already, you can say, we are, so much advanced developers because in our head we have built that understanding. We have mastered these
It's a
skills.
gradual build up, yeah.
Yeah. For us, it is an opportunity to really save a lot of time using all these tools, right? Because these
Hmm.
tools are going to come do our 50-60% of the work. That means we have a lot of time, right? Of course, not you, because you're a CEO, you have a lot more responsibility, not me as
Yeah,
well, but experienced developers. Let's say somebody who is working as experienced developers, right? Their job now is more of also understanding the systems, like system architecture a little bit more. Uh,
hmm,
and also, their job is to guide these engineers in a right way. Okay, find out all the things that they do with ChatGPT. Like if they give you a code to do a review, you should be a code reviewer at this point, okay? And you should critique every piece of the code from your junior developers. Why? Because it's going to teach them that, hey, because they just went and prompted without fundamentally understanding the whole thing, you see, you're going to have challenges.
right.
So you gotta go and critique them so they are on the right path. You can push them a bit more to fundamentally understand stuff and upskill, right? I mean, because you are having time, I think it's a time to upskill in different ways. We can see in next 5-6 years, if imagine if AI is gonna be a thing, right? Imagine there is this smart computer somebody built. These chips are available, like Nvidia. I was seeing the Nvidia's the latest
Shield kind of
conference. Yeah, they are
yeah.
like for $3,000. They are giving I think they call 10 digits or something, the new computer that's
Yeah,
going to be
it's one is
AI.
in a handful one and one is I
Yeah.
think complete rack in
Yeah.
disk. Yeah.
So if those computers are going to come in 2 years, what are people going to do with that, right? They're going to fine tune all of these models, right?
Right,
So they're going to be using these base models, open source models, fine tuning, because we all know at this point is your model is only good as data, right?
right,
If you have a good data, if you fine tune that model with fine tune, or I would say other techniques too, like RAG and prompt engineering, If you do it right, these models can do wonders. And you as a developer have all that knowledge, better than chat gpt. Like, you are critiquing chat gpt or anything because your knowledge is farther better, right? So you have chance to create some of the best applications or agents, or you can call it as models even. To that level, models will be like smaller models. I don't think, as individual developers, we can ever like have all the compute and resources to go after large
To
language
create
models.
a
I
big
don't
LLM,
think
yeah.
it's yeah, but we will need to know these techniques like RAG is amazing. If you as a developer at this point do not understand RAG and how to work with it, you're going to be really behind. That's number one thing, right? Anything that you have, you should be able to quickly use RAG. And RAG means retrieval augment generation. I don't want to get into the details of this podcast, but really,
Right.
it's think of RAG as next Google, or your own Google
Mm,
for your own thing, but it is more intelligent. Like, you can throw a query and it will give you responses based on that specific data that you have access to.
right.
Like, for example, I have all my Stack Exchange answers. I should be able to like take my own Stack Exchange answers and do a RAG on top of it and build a system that I am capable of using, right? Or use, other rack providers too. There are multiple of them. You just upload a document and you do it. For Salesforce also, there is a RAG in Data Cloud, of course, that you use for other applications, like applications that you build for your end customers, right? So you see that is there, right? RAG, prompt engineering, fine tuning. These are the stuff you need to be comfortable with, because you will be living in this world
Right.
another 5 years. You will be living in this world. Even if AGI is another controversial thing. I don't want to get into. But
Yeah.
let's say AGI comes up or something comes, like a computer. Like, let's imagine we have a computer, smart computer from Nvidia, and we are able to like give all the multimodal capabilities to it, give all the Salesforce documentation, let's say the developer guides and whatnot, right, to it, train it. And let's say you give a requirement, it writes its code, it compiles on its own, pushes to the cloud. It's already happening. I mean, a lot of companies are building tools like that. 10x admin, I just saw a tool from someone, 10x admin, they are calling. All they are doing is using LLM to generate the prompt, and then using metadata API to push, and they are calling agents.
Right.
I mean, agents are nothing but fancy word. It's LLM plus software, right?
Right.
So these type of things will be there, right? But the you will still need, as a human, as a software developer, right? I mean, you and myself, we know that cost of fixing something after it is done is more than at the
Right.
initial phase. I mean, you cannot have AI just create bugs and bugs and bugs, and then people
Right.
like start finding people to fix them. That will be more costlier, right?
Right.
So that's why I think developers won't go anywhere. But your job will be more of using those tools and then finding bugs in them, reviewing. So you're going to be really good at reviewing code, looking at the code, coming up with test cases and things like that, being able to challenge that solution that the system is producing. I think that will be your role. Supervising, I can say.
Okay.
Supervising might be the good
But
term.
Mohit, in this case, let's say I put a 5 years experienced developer. On one side, there is a glorious CTA path. They want to be a CTA, and down suddenly in last 1 year, there's so much noise about AI, and they want to grab all of it because there is so much excitement to learn all of it. So again, let's say if I want to decide as a 5 year experienced developer,
Yeah,
my next 1 year, it's a tough battle. Like CTA is again not an easy path, like doing so many certification, becoming system architect, application architect, and then there is a hell lot of learning around AI and everything. So,
I
and
see.
again, we cannot work for 90 hours also, as
Oh,
somebody
yeah, yeah,
claimed.
yeah.
So
I don't
how
work
should
for
we
90
go?
hours too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is a great question. Very good question, right? How do you balance out things? And that is, I think, the fundamental of us, right? See, it all depends on what do we want, how much time we have, etc., etc. But if I were to bet, like at this point, right, I would prioritize anything with AI in my learning journey. Anything in AI, prioritize it. Um,
Add tools and learning related to AI in the skill set first thing. Just like smartphone was a new thing,
Yes,
but now common.
application
So
side of it,
same.
applied AI. Yeah, application
Right.
side of it. Yes, tools. I need to be using all these tools, seeing their merits, demerits, knowing what can they do, what they cannot. Because once I get a problem, I should be able to quickly take that decision of, okay, I'm going to use this tool, to do this, because I know this is efficient, right? In terms of like that journey around CTA and things, look, it is personal preference. Okay, I know a lot of CTAs in our company, they're amazing, there will be market for that for sure. I myself wanted to be a CTA at some point, right? At this
Yeah.
point, that's not my goal. Things change, right? I'm like, okay, no, that might be my secondary goal at this point, but it depends on individual preference. Again, if you want to be with the business, if you want to understand business and provide technology solutions at high level, do not want to get into like really line by line code level that I enjoy, that's the path. Probably that's the path that you would want to, right? If you want to be at the code level, still like trying to be at that bottom level of understanding how these things are getting built, then I would prioritize AI at this point compared to anything
Right.
else. AI tools
Correct
are
me if I'm
guided.
wrong. Like I
Yeah.
think data cloud, AI certifications. That's probably a foundation now,
That's
just
a
like
minimum
admin
skill.
cert,
Minimum. It's minimum.
minimum
Don't
skill.
treat them. See, don't. I see people go posting there in the LinkedIn and all. Probably I also do that. Hey, I completed the certification. That's good. See, that is minimum. Okay, and
Hmm.
honestly, everyone will get that. So, what is distinguishing you from them? What is it that you have that is a skill set, like, that is different and that adds value to your organization, right? If I look at myself, like, I always question this: what is that extra skill set that I have that adds value to the work that I'm doing, right? And where do I want to see myself in next 2 to 3 years, right? So these are the fundamental questions that you have to ask. Look, it's different for me, different for you, because you have your own goals. Different for people, like everybody has their own goals, everybody is different, so you got to ask yourself, what do you want to do? But betting on the current scheme of things, probably AI might not fly, who knows? But i
Right.
i personally see this as a transformational phase. It's funny, like people ask me like, hey, why are you betting so much on AI? And what happens if AI doesn't fly off? My only answer to that is, look, I have been trying to learn fundamental skills. If AI is there, that's okay. If it's not going to help in the future, that's okay too. Only thing that I would say for myself is, see, I have been trying to get rid of these cursor ID that I have, chat gpt, from my thing. I have not been able to get rid of it from last two
Yeah, I
years two and
cannot
a half
imagine now. Like if I don't have Perplexity or Chat GPT, it would be so tough to work, even on non-coding related stuff,
Yes,
normal business stuff.
they're getting integrated into our lives because they make our lives easier. Why was software a huge success, right? Because I mean, I was in India 3 months 4 months back, and I cannot imagine my life in India these days without a smartphone. You pay with
Right.
smartphone, so you make use of internet, right? You're ordering food, you're using Zomato, it's one of those things people use. Same thing here in US, like everything that I use software. And why people use software is because it is saving time, it is giving you that experience that you as a human want. Like, you don't want to be in the line standing for 2 hours. If a software can do that job, it's a better experience for yourself, right? So that is the ultimate thing. Experience, we want better experience, good quality of life, and being able to do what we like, actually. It's hard
Right.
being able to do what we like in reality, but that's what we aim for and we live for, I guess, as humans, right? And the
Right.
software made it easier, and this AI is making more easier, so why not, right?
True.
So
True.
that's the thing.
So, I mean, if I summarize this part, I think you rightly said data cloud, all AI things, Agentforce, these are foundation. These are like admin level certification now.
Yeah.
You have to know the skills and then decide CTA consultants what you want to build business wise or industry wise on top of it.
Yes, exactly. That's a great summary. Yes, you have to decide what you want. If you want to get into business side, architecture side, CTS are the great path. If you want to be at the ground level, then coding is what you would want to do, right? And you also have to understand the economy value of it. Again, everything boils down to that too, like economics, right? How is it
Right.
going to affect the society? That is what you need to be asking every day. The work
Right.
that you are doing is a very small part of this whole big economy, right? And your job is to see that that particular thing has some value to the economy and the
True.
society. And if that has some value, then probably it's much easier, and you'll keep doing what you love, basically.
Right. And if people feel happy when they see their thing is getting used, let's say in some government office or some big public organization or, or private organization
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
But with that said, let's change the gear a bit. Like we're talking about developers, they're
yeah.
also probably in touch with a lot of customers. How do
Yes.
you see that change in expectation? What are like the typical queries which are especially around AI lately from customer side? How much they want to use it?
Yeah, so from a customer's perspective, I think a lot of mixed, at least I talk to these customers when I'm on world tour, like the Agentforce Now tour and things like that. I find customers coming back to me and kind of asking, right? Because for them, everything is working. Like everything is working in terms of what they have currently, right? That is
Hmm.
their understanding, right, of the world. Most of the customers, look, we're making business, we have these softwares, right? But I think they also are trying as a business, like you own a business, right, Abhinav? And as a business owner, your goal is to give better experience to your end clients. Their goal is to give a better experience to their end customers, right? So if you look at that grand scheme of things, right, giving better experiences, AI is going to play a huge role in it if done properly. Okay, so I'll tell you a couple of examples.
I
So
mean, most smart question and most dumb question by a customer.
yeah,
Without,
I'll come to that actually. Come to the question, but I like to tell stories because from my
sure.
own experience, I have a lot of stories of getting frustrated, etc. So one of the things was I was flying from India to US, flying back from my home. I went to home after a long time, and I have a toddler, a small girl. And with toddlers, there's a lot of challenges. Keeping them entertained and all. So I thought, what? I have a small layover here in London. If I could like get a lounge access there, it would be so much better. And turns out I have these 8 or 10 credit cards from US. The lounge access, like to figure out which has lounge access, is a tedious task. So I went to this credit card website and I'm like, Chase has, like, for example, not taking names of the customer, but let's imagine Chase, right? JP Morgan Chase is one of the banks I use. I went there and I'm like looking at all these offers and things that they have like tons of these marketing materials for me to read, right? And just all I want is, look at my
Simple answer.
history. Yeah, look at
Yeah.
my history. Tell me, if I want to get a lounge access, what are my options, right? It's as simple as that. So I think none of these customers are actually giving you that experience, or even if they are giving that experience, there's definitely um, a potential to improve that experience. Okay, so I think that is where I see AI as a really nice tool. Okay, for all of that. So just like how we have websites today and mobile applications, I think there's going to be agents that these businesses are going to be offering to their customers. Customer facing agents, software vendors will offer the assistant for the apps, for builders, who are building, or configurators like admins, like Salesforce. Like we'll have setup agent. Like that's another thing that is coming. Setup agent that's going to help you with setup of
Right.
Salesforce specifically. I know people go to our help.salesforce.com and then they're like asking setup questions there and they are disappointed, right? That's because, look, that is for different purpose. There's going to be a dedicated setup agent that's going to help you with setup that you have in Salesforce, right? There's going to be in future maybe agents for developers, of course, like Agentforce for developers. It will evolve into an agent. So every
Right.
company will offer agent, and that's why I think agentic world has a lot of meaning to it. Because how are we going to bridge these LLMs to the software? Because we know software is accurate; it's 100%. Like if you code it in a certain specific way, and if you tell it this is what you want to do it, it's going to do 100% of the times. And these large language models can understand and orchestrate these things, right? So it'll be a combination of two, and that's why I think agents are going to be the next software. Like software will itself, like kind of evolve into that next generation thing called agents will evolve into robotics. That's what industry experts say. That's a different world. Agents, right? Every company will need agents, whether they like it or not. That's not the question. If they want to provide a better experience, somehow there will be this revolution. It's just like any other revolution, right? I mean, look, you could, like, Nokia at that time, was one company that said, hey, why smartphones? We'll keep producing this handheld devices,
Right.
this old type of thing, because there's a market for that. How long before that market vanished out of its own, right?
Right,
Same
right.
thing,
I think,
same thing is going to happen. If, see, if example a bank gives me a agent that can answer my questions, and there is another bank where I still have to log in and read all their marketing materials, who do you think I'm going to bank with?
and I think expectation is changed now. You don't want, or you don't, even I don't have that patience that I go and read a knowledge base article.
Yeah.
I just want simple answer, and even I don't want to wait on a phone line also. Like you
Yes.
press this button, go this button, and do no.
Yeah.
I mean, and even I think you're correct, because in setup also, if I have to read help.salesforce.com 4 5 pages, it's a little traumatic. I still want to do that to educate myself, but not for everyone. Let's say I'm a small cafe owner or a small business owner. I
Yes.
want to set up Salesforce quickly, so it's better like I have an agent who tells, okay, click this, do this. Do you want me to do this? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably the one
exactly.
way to
That
go.
is, yeah, that is the vision, I think. And at this point, a lot of developers don't get it because they don't talk with business, right? And business don't get it because it's all evolving. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, how many examples do we have? I mean, of course, now we have some stories, customer stories to tell, how they achieve these things. That's the thing. Like, you have to be visionary and understand its impact. Yeah. So you asked me, like, what is like dumb question people have asked, and what is like the most curious question.
Yeah, most impressive question which you like put you on toes. Oh wow, they want this also.
Yeah, so most impressive question that I can recall that one of the customers sort of asked me was like, they truly understood what is agents and how it's gone out thing. And they asked me one thing, like, hey, imagine I do all this investment and build these agents and whatnot, right? Who is responsible if these agents are going to go do things wrongly, right? Who is responsible for that? Is like the company that gave you the agent platform, is the vendor that implemented the agent, right? Who is responsible for things that
Damage. Yeah.
damage that's going to cause? So I think this is a question that I think about it, right? And all I want to tell is, look, who is responsible if software goes wrong? Right, it comes to the same thing here. You have tools, you have things, but you have to benchmark it. You also have to have a strategy of, if things fail, how are you going to do? Like, if you look at one of the features that we give in Agentforce, is if the agent is like kind of hanged and not able to understand, you can like say, bring me a human agent.
Yeah. Pass
That's
it
the
over.
feature, right? So
Yeah.
you connect with humans, and then the experience, I mean, could be definitely less frustrating, right?
Right.
So those kind of fail points, you as a business designer or business analyst have to imagine. And that's where I think the business analyst and all these roles are going to still evolve. They're going to evolve. They will have to think through all these things.
Yeah, they have
What
to
happens?
educate a lot on these
Yeah,
parts.
education required, design, architecture, everything is still valid. It's just change. It's going to upgrade themselves. But that is what you're going to think about it. Like, okay, it all comes down to the same thing. What is the business problem that we are trying to solve here? How are we going to solve? Do we have the data points to solve them? And then finally, are these tools enough to solve them, right? And what is the efficiency that we will get, and how do we measure? And that's why I like Salesforce platform, because we have all these things. Like, the agent itself is a user here, right? One user, you can monitor it. I mean, in fact, there are a lot of features that they are building. Like, there's a supervisor agent that's going to happen, that's going to supervise this agent, right? So you also as a human can supervise it when these agents are in the field and doing its stuff. You can look at the reports, you can build these reports. So when people ask me, like, the value out of Salesforce, is because, see, we have all these things. We have tools for security, identity management. Like, people who are building agents, they'll have to think about identity. How are they going to authorize these? How are they going to think about identity a lot? Here at Salesforce, we already have that identity level layer proven that it works from 25 years, right?
Right.
So those kind of things, like, you will still need a platform where you can build things quickly and test it out. Okay.
Right.
And I think
And
agents.
Mohit, on this part, sorry to cut you. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
in two ways. One is, let's say I'm using Microsoft Windows and I have a calculator app. Now this calculator is working wrong, so I cannot blame Microsoft Windows. I will
Yes.
say this calculator is buggy.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting analogy. But again, on agents part, probably like if I just take a customer support example, this is interesting. The person is claiming that agent might go wrong, but humans do mess up also. They yell at
Yes.
customers at time. they
Yes.
goof up big time. I mean, probably agent will not do that yelling part that, okay, no,
Yes.
go FFF, and
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
like that will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly. There will be actions, I mean, of course, you have to be certain about some actions. It cannot go do wrong actions also. Like, for example, if, a wrong balance is deducted from your bank, you will be angry about it for sure. And if agent does that, you'll be like, more worried about that kind of scenarios, right? And that kind of solutions providing to your end users, right? So everything needs to be tested, and that's where I think testing center that is coming up with the agents is such a critical part of this functionality, because you need to be able to prompt it with different things, like have machine generate these prompts. That's exciting. Actually, next week I was trying to deep dive. It's coming next week, actually, live next week already. We
okay,
have an admin blog if you want to read through it. But yeah, that will be a huge role, like along with agent builder, is like you'll use that, try with
to
different
ensure that
addresses,
it's
and
stable.
yeah, at least the benchmark how it kind of performs.
Right,
Because see, LLMs are going to be evolving, but they will have their own models. I mean, it's like versioning, right? I mean, if you test it out with an LLM, it's not going to be like real time. The models are going to be changing rapidly. Yeah, that's not how it's going to be, at least in internet today. That's the problem I see in internet,
right.
because now the data changes. You can see something else that, but like having the model capped to certain things, right? It's easier for developers too, because then you've tested with that specific model, how it's working, its benchmark, it's not going to
Right.
change. And
But
it's going
Mohit, I'm still stuck in that part. So I'm now comparing in my head when you're talking digital worker versus human worker. So human worker, you also have an escalation route. But with digital worker, let's say you process 100 clients in, let's say, 1 minute
to.
instead of like such a human worker. So you are actually getting a boost also. And again, there can be an escalation for digital worker
Yes.
also, that
Hmm.
he or she did, I don't know what you will call a digital worker, but
Yeah.
that person did something wrong, that agent did something wrong.
Yeah.
So that will be there.
Yeah, I think it will be combination. It will be combination. It will be supervised. I think it will be regulated. All sorts of things will happen. Overall, what I'm thinking is it's gonna make us efficient. If I had to build a demo for something which used to take me a week, I'll be able to do that in 2 to 3 days. No question on that.
Right, right.
It's
So
because
talking about that also, what do you see? I think you already talked about the testing center piece for agents and everything. What else can we expect from Salesforce in 2025, which you can share without
yeah,
any
without the
hesitation?
NDA and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
so one of the things, yeah, so testing center is definitely, of course, I don't want to reveal a lot of things for it from TDX. I know there's a lot of things at TDX, and you know hopefully that kind of pleases all the developers. One of the things that they were asking, so I'm not going to reveal that, so just watch at TDX. It's going to be huge for developers. They've been asking that forever. In that much clue I can give you, they will be asking forever, like, we need this because this is blocking us from like learning, etc. So that will come. But overall, I think what will happen in 2025 is, I think the experience needs improvement. I'm excited about Agentforce for developers. Yeah, I'm excited because, see, these models that we have, I mean, for Agentforce for developers, we use our own model. Okay, this is another thing
code
called
gen.
code gen. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
so here's the thing: is code gen is open source model. Okay, anybody can go, like, you can go on Hugging Face and just search for code gen, X code
Hmm.
gen, code gen. These are our models. Okay, this
Hmm.
is for coding. Like, this is a model for coding. What we do is we fine tune that for Apex and LWC, right? But and for flows, Einstein for flows is it's already there live from spring release, which will
Right.
help you generate flows and stuff to some extent. To some extent, it'll generate. What I'm exciting is that model can be trained on lot of specific things, and that to me is an exciting opportunity for us, right? For Salesforce, definitely. For community too. I see a lot of developers actually trying to understand how these models are fine tuned. What is it that is required for these models to be surfaced on internet,
Hmm.
like as APIs, or even in local machine, like how you can download them and start using it. I think these are the questions. I'm a little surprised that not a lot of developers are asking or even thinking about it. And to me, as a developer, that is what I daily read and daily understand and kind of try to understand all these things, like how is it all working from system architecture perspective, right? And I think what is important here is, I think we have an opportunity here to make it so good that you can take your metadata and start asking questions about your metadata, start asking it to do generations like create custom object for me, these are my fields. Of course you can do
Right.
that with chat gpt and stuff, but it doesn't have the context of your org. That is the thing that is lacking.
Right.
So giving our own model that capabilities and benchmarking against all those things, that is what I'm excited about. I want to see product team like push that a bit, because I see the lot of potential for Salesforce developers and admins with that, because metadata is like hidden gem, right? See, one
Right.
who is a good developer in terms of development, right? One who really understands Salesforce metadata. You understand Salesforce config, which is like you're clicking through the interface. End of the day, it's all translated to metadata, right? So if you know these clicks, these are the clicks you have to do. You can tell to the metadata today. You can try that with ChatGPT. It works to some extent. Like you take a metadata file. I
Yeah,
always
you download and dump it into.
yeah, I always
Yeah.
do this. I was writing a visual force page for some PDF generation, because PDFs are one thing that LWCs at this point doesn't give.
They
Visual
don't
force
handle.
is
Yeah.
what it gives. And I had
Right.
to, like, there's a very specific requirement that came up, and I was talking to one of the developers. He wanted to print only those fields that are there in this sub tab of Lightning experience. And I
Hmm.
was like, why can't you just like build a visual force page? And then he goes and shows me the tab, and it has like 50 fields, and he's like, I need to like code them, like really code. And I'm like, wait a sec. One way you could do now, of course, you can dynamically build that with APIs and stuff, but he didn't have budgets to do that. So I was like, use AI, like, use probably ChatGPT, just put that XML file of that page layout and tell it to extract all the fields, in the same section wise, and tell it to create a visual force page. And to our
Right.
surprise, it did 90%. It
Right.
printed all the fields, layouts, and you have the PDF. It printed up. And then I'm iterating from there. I'm asking it to, hey, give me page numbers for this PDF, give me this, give me that, put a logo here and there. And yeah, we were boom, solved in an hour instead of like probably 8 hours of work that was at our previous things. So that's another area, right? I'm excited in terms of agent force itself, like that builder tool, right? I think it can improve its UX. It definitely has a lot of potential. There will be features there, testing
Hmm.
center. There will be a lot of features that's going to make it easier. For Data Cloud, I'm excited because they're adding more connectors and whatnot to it. Also make it easier. I think one of the challenges that I can admit is it sometimes it's like a lot of clicks, right? So that
Right.
kind of thing needs to be automated. But there's a lot of things for developers in Data Cloud. So Data Cloud from top looks like a lot of click and point and easy to configure. But there will be scenarios where you will be writing a lot of code. you know
Yeah, I saw classic SQL back in Data
yeah,
Cloud, which was very pleasing to see actually.
there is a
People are making
JDBC driver.
join. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It has all sorts of things. So, I mean, of course, you'll also use Data Cloud in your application itself. I mean, imagine these companies, they have their application, either in Salesforce or other front end applications too. And you'll be querying all this data with Data Cloud and stuff like that. So, there's a lot
Right.
of work that's going to be in that domain for sure. All of these
Right.
domains, and it will evolve, it will keep evolving the products. I mean, 1 year from now, it's going to be a lot of change.
Yeah, I
uh,
don't know. I think it's changing every month now. Somebody told me, like you.
yeah.
I don't know. The tricky part is, I think you guys are not getting anything trained on AI, what you are getting. So you are probably training AI with whatever you are producing as a video or as a blog.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I think developer advocacy role also that I have here, luckily so far, right, at Salesforce, is still kind of thing required, because who's going to catch up to all these innovations, understand them, and create content for the community.
But Mohit, if we just try to recap that part also, like your transition from a consulting company, even as an ISV architect and architect to advocate, so a person should be mentally prepared that they might not get a help document, a very well-defined help document, blog or
Yes.
YouTube video. You have to dig everything out. So maybe just put like a short light on that. Like if somebody is aspiring to be an advocate, what mindset or attitude they need.
Yeah, so this is a great question. And I think one of the mindsets they will need for this is to be curiosity. Okay, so that's one thing you need, being curious always, because you have to be, your developers are going to ask you questions, more than the management or the company. They're going to come up with problems, and you need to be in a position to answer them. You would have seen me still answering on Stack Exchange
Yeah, I
or
think people tag you here and there on
yeah.
LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere.
Yeah, so you need to be in that frame of mind to be able to imbibe everything, right? Still show empathy, right? So, and curiosity of learning. So you'll need to be a constant learner. Okay, constant learner, that is one characteristics that you will need for a developer advocate. I mean, if you're a developer, you need the learning skills, but it's not that fast. Okay, because see, these products will come and then you can learn based on the requirement. Maybe you will learn. Sometimes you're just supporting some application. So definitely, you're not learning at that pace as we are, or we are supposed to. So you need to be a very good learner. Okay, second thing is you need to be very quick at producing these content. Okay, and with like clarity, so your communication skills comes up there. Also your
Storytelling, presentation.
yes, presentation skills, soft skills, video editing skills. All we, it's funny, we edit all our videos too. So you see, there's a
Oh, you
lot of
do it
skills.
yourself?
Yes, so a lot of
Wow.
skill set.
Okay.
I live stream sometimes. So you need a lot of writing skills because you need to write, and reading skills because you'll be reading a lot of unfinished documents here and there. Google Docs. I read a lot of Quip Docs. I read a lot of papers, scientific papers. Because see, nobody is coming and teaching me. Of course, we have the product teams who I can reach out to, etc. But nobody has time to come to me and say, "Hey, this is what we are building. This is the thing, right?" There is this documentation team which will produce document at some time. Sometimes we help documentation team, right?
True.
So no, you need to be a wrangler, like wrangler, just wrangling here and there, reading these piece of thing, making an understanding in your mind, asking right questions, and know when to involve people. So that's why I'm coming. So first you need learning skills, communication, soft skills, reading, writing, and then people skills. That's very, very important
Talk to
because
different people across business and not just
yes.
simple technical people.
Yes, and this is very tough because see what happens is, in for example, Salesforce, right? We have a lot of teams, and a lot of teams are producing. Every team is producing some feature or something. So you need to have that mindset, that connection that you build between that person and yourself. Not just external community but also internal, and try to understand that their time is also limited. So you cannot just
True.
go ask everything to them. You
Help
need
me
to be like,
out and
yeah, you
yeah.
need to be prescriptive. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
running into this. I did all these things. Can you tell me, what I'm doing wrong, or can you assist? And if you have the right intentions, of course, they're gonna help. So that is the thing, people skills, right? So these are the three skills you will need, and of course, your coding skills and other things, technology skills are very important here as well. So these are the four skills you need to become a really good developer advocate, because you're wearing a lot of shoes here, lot of shoes on a daily basis. When
A lot of travel also.
lot of travel, exactly, lot of travel to, like, last year I spent what 40,000 miles I've traveled. It's a lot of travel. So you will be
Hmm.
exhausted. You are there in, sometimes you are on your own here in your studios producing these videos. Sometimes you are surrounded by thousands of people. So you
Right.
need to like understand and keep your mental state very healthy. One of the things that we ignore is the mental health, right? So you
Right.
really need to understand as a individual, because see, for me, I'm very passionate. If I see something, I'm like, I want to do this, right? But then I also have to understand as a human is like, look, it's not something that I can do straight up
Go on and
nice
on
for,
and
yeah, on
yeah.
and on, because it's going to affect you mentally and your other things as well, like family, etc., right? So you need to balance it out end of the day with all the skills. And it is yeah, it is one of the things I always tell, that if you're really passionate about helping people, right, and you have all these skills, then you should look into this.
So
Otherwise,
yeah.
there are other roles that might fit you well.
Right. The reason I'm asking again, I asked the same question, Aditya, also because I heard a few times people think that this is a cool job. You have to go, you will get the slides from Salesforce, you just have to narrate them out, and you are happy go lucky kind of person. So just recapping it
Yeah.
for people, like it is actually, I respect advocates a lot because I have heard this thing, this behind the scenes story from many people. But
Yes.
let's keep moving. We are above an hour mark, and I have two very interesting
Yeah. Yeah.
questions for you, Mohit. So
Absolutely.
one is about LLM benchmark. Salesforce released their own CRM benchmark, and
Hmm.
then the beautiful thing they did is they have use cases, and then you can choose a LLM of thing. But if you generally pick, like, there's so many LLMs, and if you have three general use cases which you frequently see, which three different LLMs which you will fit into different boxes? Okay, for this thing take this one, this thing take this one.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the things is I have my colleague called Charles Watkins. He's a developer advocate. He came from Google and Grammarly. Last year, we onboarded him. He did a session at Dreamforce, and you can find that session. If you find it, link it to your
About
podcast.
speed, modality, and context window. He's the
Yes,
same
yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. He did a session about LLMs, like which LLMs to choose and what, right? So
What
it goes more
criteria?
in
Yeah.
detail. But to answer your question, right? See, look, LLMs have their own features and personality and own things, right? If I were to pick at this point, like most good LLM to do coding, of course, I would say for Salesforce, try Agentforce for developers. We are making it better and better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I use Claude Sonnet 3.5. Okay, it's probably the best LLM you can use to
Mm-hmm.
do coding. Okay,
Okay. It beats ChatGPT
yes,
4.0 or
yeah.
0.01, what is called.
I would say not O1. I mean, see, the thing about O1 is like GPT-o1 definitely does better than Claude Sonnet 3.5. It's not for everyday use. Like it will think. If you give a problem, it's gonna think and think and think. So use for complexity. If you have truly complex thing that these LLMs are stuck, that's good for O1 mini or O1. Okay. But for regular use, Claude Sonnet 3.5 does really good job, especially with Salesforce languages too. I've seen it. Maybe when it comes to like strictly Salesforce, I would say GPT 4.0 is also okay. GPT,
Mm-hmm.
both are comparable. I would say you can use Claude 3.5 or GPT-4. Use both. So the best part is the Cursor ID has both. I use Cursor ID. Copilot
Mm-hmm.
also has both. Every ID provider now has the ability to choose language models. So there's no harm in using both. But the thing to understand is, see, Claude 3.5, that is specifically trained on the code aspect of it, so it is good. Now,
Okay.
if you have to write something like for writing and all,
Blogs and articles.
yeah, articles, blogs, and all, I use ChatGPT 4.0. It's okay.
Right.
It's decent. If I have to, let's say, look for a model which is really fast and also it has more context window, that means I can throw in a lot more information to it and it's still able to answer me by looking at the information. That is Gemini 2.0. Also,
Okay.
Gemini 2.0 has multimodal. That means you can share your screen. If you go to Google's AI Studio, that's another one
Mm-hmm.
that I use a lot. Google's AI Studio, where you can like do a certain thing and tell what I did. It will produce a tutorial. It can also assist you. Hey, I'm doing this, and it's gonna go tell, hey, go do this, go do that. So look at AI Studio from Google, and especially the Gemini 2.0 model. But so the thing about models is it's the models are going to evolve, okay, and none of the models, and I can tell one thing, I could be wrong in this because I don't work for AI research and stuff, but I can confidently tell that, at least from my understanding of reading these papers and stuff, is they are not going to be 100% accurate ever,
True.
ever,
True.
ever,
Yeah.
because it's the way they work is based on this transformers architecture. And if you look at the architecture, it's basically a math, and probability. So
Hmm.
probability cannot be like 100% accurate. There's 100% probability, and the way the neural networks work, and it all boils down to neural networks actually. So the way neural network works is they have a function called loss function. Okay, so what they do is they keep training the model till that loss function is minimal. Okay,
Hmm.
and then it has all the dependency on size, context window, the parameters. I mean, I can talk a lot about these models and how they work, but not to bore you up with this talk, right? But the reality is this, that the models are going to come and go. There will be a lot of models. There will be specific models for specific job. Reality is, you me, if we spend some bunch of time like dedicated, we can come up with a model for a specific ask, better than any of these models if you know the
Mm-hmm.
subject better, right? And one thing I already know that these models have sufficient power at this point that if you know a problem and if you know how it solves and if you tell them how you solved it, they will have that fundamental understanding built into them, and they are not going to make
Right.
that mistake again. So you see, that is prompting. What I just described is prompting, which is telling the
Yeah.
model that, hey, what you need to do, right? So you see, the models are gonna come and go. The apps are gonna be just like any other thing. Just like you have when somebody invented C language, did they imagine that they're gonna use the C language for all sorts of innovation? Nobody
Right.
imagined. Same thing with anything, like in general. So that will happen with prompting. Nobody knows
Right.
what people are gonna do with prompting. They'll
On that
build.
note, what do you know any good book on prompt engineering or prompting or any course? Because this
Uh,
actually is a deep skill now, to
It's a
do it
very deep
rightly.
skill, very deep skill. Actually, I can tell. So I wrote a blog post on Salesforce developers called Prompt Engineering. I don't know if you've read that. I think for Prompt Builder, because Prompt Builder is
Okay.
another tool where you can do prompt engineering in Salesforce.
Right.
And I had like three different techniques, okay, that I think are very important for developers to understand. One is a technique that is very common called few shot prompting, which is
Hmm.
basically giving examples to these LLMs.
Right.
Very good technique. It's simple, very good. Because if I have to solve a problem, right, and if I, like, let's say I want to write test class for a certain class, if I give them two examples of that, it will come up with third test use case.
Hmm.
So that's few shot, and few shot works. I don't want to again go into details of why it always works, because I know exactly why it works, but I can 100% tell that a few shots definitely work. Okay.
Okay.
So few shot prompting, and then there's a thing called chain of thought. Chain of thought is you give a problem and then you as a human build the thinking process behind it and then give
Hmm.
that thought to the AI. Or in other words, you can ask AI to like think through, say, okay, what is it that you're using to solve the problem? Like, what are the steps that you used? So AI will give you the steps, and you as a human can like take control of that and say, okay, I want you to do this. You want to give your own chain of thought, and then the AI goes in a right direction. So that is called chain of thought. And
Right.
the third thing that I don't think I speak in that blog is called tree of thought. That is also a really nice thing. Tree of thought is like you say that, okay, you are an expert in this field. Like imagine you want to solve this assuming you have access to four different experts and they have these skills. Now go try solve the problem, then compare, critique, and then find the best solution. And the AI reasonably does that. And this is a whole field actually, like prompt engineering. There's a lot of research that is going on. Techniques are evolving. In fact, they have found symbolic reasoning as another technique. Like if you tell AI with symbols, like if you give a problem and if you tell it with symbols, it's going to respond better than than just text. So that is also the thing. So it's a vast world. How did I acquire this knowledge? If I think about it, like how did I acquire this knowledge about prompt engineering technique? I think I read papers. So archive is a good way to go read these papers um,
Hmm.
about these prompting techniques. But otherwise, Google it. This is fundamental. This is how
Right.
Agent Force is built. Behind the scenes, what it is doing is prompt engineering.
Right.
Okay, so that, and yeah, I mean, this is a prompt engineering is like a skill. It's gonna be the next thing.
Right. So I'm a
Prompt.
lazy guy. I mostly do this chain of thought kind of thing. I ask actually LLM to generate a full prompt for me. Then
Yeah,
I tune that prompt and give it back like, okay, now you do the job for me.
that's a great technique, right? Self reflection.
But I love the tree example also. This is interesting. So put four different experts and let them negotiate, debate, and
Yeah, and then come up with a solution. Yeah, it was pretty good
right.
with that. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's happening everywhere. Is every platform has their own AI offering, and everybody is claiming to have agents. Which platform, apart from Agentforce, you think is actually doing agents really agents in a right way, rather than just putting the word agent on top of their platform, and which can be fruitful for Salesforce folks also, as it is mainly Salesforce audience here.
Yeah, so agentic world has like agentic is the new word, right? See, when I look at these agent platforms, right? First, let me like talk about Salesforce, like why I like Salesforce. See, when you are building these agents, there is things that you need to understand, right? Any agent platform needs to have, first of all, speed with which you can build these agents. Okay. And we all, at this point, if we all know that that's one of our differentiator. It's like it's so easy to build these agents in agent force, right? Because it's very clicky. You're just, you know we have our own way of, it's prescriptive, right? Prescriptive, also flexibility, right? We already had the platform, so we don't have to worry about anything else. You take your actions. Speaking of actions, right, there's a lot of new things that are coming there. But if I answer your question, like, is there any other platform that is building agents at this point? I don't see any other platform. Like, there are startups that I would think they're building some agents here and there focused for specific requirements. Like, for example, Devin is one. Devin
Yeah,
has the
yeah.
agent, like coding agent,
Notoriously popular.
yeah,
Yeah.
popular for those things. So there will be startups who are going to build these specific agents, and I think it'll be interesting, because if you build for some specific thing, it will be better. Okay, it will be better. But I think where we differentiate is the platform. We give you a platform. um,
You do what you want and
yeah,
take it
yeah.
forward.
Other than that, I've seen Google's agent space is what they call, agent workspace is what they call. A little more code heavy. I mean, you need to build Python and stuff like that. There are frameworks to build these agents, like LangGraph. That's another framework. The problem, see, again, I'm not against these frameworks. No way I could have built these frameworks. So kudos to these creators who build these frameworks and stuff like that. Really, the challenge with all these frameworks and stuff is you still have to, like, code all these things, maintain it, secure it, put it on the infrastructure, build a lot of these orchestration layers and stuff. There's a lot of build.
Right,
There's a lot of things
right.
to build. And ultimately, businesses, I mean,
They
what you
don't
want as a
want
business,
technical debt.
yeah, what you
Yeah,
want as a business is to get the value right away. Provide the
right,
value to the use, like your end customer, get the value. And that is where I think
right.
I like Salesforce's Agent Force a lot.
Perfect, perfect. So
Yeah.
last question, like typically now everybody's trying to take up that Google's address bar. So Google itself is summarizing your
Yeah.
search queries.
Yeah.
SEO is becoming AEO. Perplexity is having that
Mm,
extension.
mm,
ChatGPT is having a search bar extension. I think Cloud also.
yeah.
So do you ever think you will kick out Google's default search with ChatGPT
No.
or anything?
No, see, Google is one of, I mean, I might be biased here, but Google is one of my favorite companies, actually. Why? Because they invented something from originality. If you look at others, other platforms, I mean, there's innovation, but it's not fundamental groundbreaking thing. I mean, of course, everybody is using Google, like the transformer architecture, right? That is what is giving rise to all these things. That was
Right.
invented at Google. Google has all sorts of data, like YouTube and stuff like that they can leverage and make their product a lot better, right? I don't see, honestly, like, how they're going to be, like, completely taking out Google from search. Maybe they will evolve, search will evolve, Google will evolve it, but Google search is Google search, like, end of the day, right? It's like, see, sometimes you want the blue links. You don't want, I mean,
A summary.
the argument is, sometimes you're like, okay, you have these perplexity. I mean, nothing against perplexity. I use it a lot. But when you talk about perplexity, I mean, sometimes it comes up with its answer. Sometimes I want that. Sometimes I want blue links. I want to go to these
Right.
links. I mean, of course, perplexity also gives it, but Google, I think, gives all these things in a much better way, right? And sometimes, as you look for ads too, I mean, look, one of the things that people argue is, like, ads, right? Sometimes you need ads. If you're looking for, like, how, where to buy my shoes, right, you need sponsored, you need ads there. I need to be able to see the market.
Who else is selling this kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
I
Yeah.
need to be able to sell the market. I mean, there's nothing wrong with ads, actually. So
Right.
yeah, so look, I think it's going to evolve, but I think Google has all the things to make it better.
True. They
Just
have the
a matter of
data.
time.
Yeah.
Just a matter of
Right,
time.
right. How do you think on the same note of content? Because you are a content producer. I love blogging, I think, since 2010 myself. But now I think people again are going to chat GPT first for many queries, which used to be Google, and traffic is probably reducing for many popular blogs.
Yeah, see, I think as humans we need to create content. Okay, so I know this AI is going to create content, etc. But again, it comes to the same thing. Like, I don't think the Chat GPT will provide the information in the way that you surface it, right? or
Hmm.
the flavor that you can add. Yeah, so blogs, books. I would love to see blogs and books. I just don't like if people like use Chat GPT and produce book and put it on the internet, or use Chat GPT and produce blog on the internet. I don't like that. I think that is not gonna be that good, because then you're basically surfacing the information that Chat GPT has, not the thing that you created or you crafted, right?
Right.
Um, so I don't want to get into copyright and stuff. I mean, that's a big issue, but I would love to be keep blogging about stuff. Love to see blogs from community, and also books. I think books are gonna be more beneficial. Like, I think at some point we all know that these digital tools are like somehow affecting us. You need to be
True.
like, the experience of just reading books like is different. Being a book lover, I can say that, right? So
Yeah. No, I
books are,
totally agree. I actually left Kindle a while ago. I
yeah.
loved it, but now I love paper books.
Yeah, paper books, they are amazing, right? You're at least disconnected from this digital world, right?
Right.
So yeah, I see your point, like the blog traffic and all. But look, that is the thing. You don't, if traffic is the aim, then that is another thing we can discuss. But I think the aim should be, even if 10 readers kind of like it, they like the content, right? And
Mm.
they use that content to create something meaningful or understand something that they never understood. See, everybody has different understanding. The way you are read and understand, and way I read and understand is different, and that's true for
Right.
anyone. The way you have understood certain piece of information and I have understood it, it's different. We never know what's who actually understands it in a really nice way, and again, who articulated it in a way that is easier for other person to understand. That's the
Right.
world. That's,
Right.
see, that is different. I read the transformer architecture, right? So I kind of went to the Google, and this is a good exercise for anybody who wants to like try it out. There are like at least 15-20 articles on internet that explain this, but I found a specific article that resonated with me. And you won't believe
Mm-hmm.
how, sorry, it was not article, it was a YouTube video. And that video was delivered in a complete classroom style. Okay,
Mm.
that was delivered in one of the colleges in Hyderabad. And
Okay.
this guy doesn't go any fancy anything like that. He's a professor. He just comes with his book, not even slides, the screenshots of the book. He stays there for like 2 hours, like 1.5 hours, and he explains transformers. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now I get it, then I'm
Mm.
like, okay, now I go back and read these articles. Now I'm like, okay, now these
It's
articles are
making more
making
sense. Yeah.
more sense,
Right.
because they were not able to communicate in a way that made much sense to me. So
Right.
what makes
Right.
sense to you might not make sense to other person, and that's why I think AI is good. Because see, AI is not pre-programmed. It is not pre-programmed to say, enter these 10 fields and these are the validations and this is how you will get, right?
Right.
You program it in a way that it has the capabilities, and then let user play around with it, right?
Right.
So that is what I love about this thing. So that's why I think everything needs to stay. Like, you need to be blogging, writing books, helping people understand certain concepts in a way that you like. It's a tough job.
Right.
Writing book, creating content is not so easy. I know people come
Right.
and do chat gpt and mention something on LinkedIn, get likes. That is different than go and originally create it. Don't
Yeah,
look at
take two, three
anything.
days minimum to write a
Yes,
really good blog. So,
yes, it is a lot of work. Yeah. But that's why if you put a lot of work, it's good also, right? It enables
right,
people.
right.
Yeah. So,
But I think, yeah, this is really being interesting. And thanks a lot, Mohit, again for all the good information. Any parting words for the Salesforce fraternity here who are listening to you?
yeah. So my only thing is Salesforce developers, right? I think one of the things that I've seen in the community and felt, I don't know if it's like 100% true, because online is only so much of the community, right? The curiosity is less. I will tell you how I can correlate. So we had this trailblazer campaign or something, right? I see these videos, they're not creative, they're just reproducing stuff that is already existing, and I see content that they just reproduce of what is there. Be creative. See, this is creativity is something that AI will not have as you. Be yourself and be creative, and that is one thing. Creativity and curiosity, I think these are the two things that I would love to have from developers. come up with different use cases, challenge things. See, the way you think and the thinking is something that we all got gifted, as humans, and we should be making best use of that. Come up with use cases, scenarios, that nobody has thought about it. Showcase to the world, in your own words. So these are things that is lacking. Everybody just copies from docs and stuff, and this is something that I'm like, okay, that kind of is not that great about our
I'm
community.
getting what you're saying. Trailhead is reproduced actually in a video, the
Yes.
whole scenario and everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think this is where probably people need to decide. Like in Bollywood and Hollywood, we have commercial masala movies, and
Yes.
then there is a beautiful artistic movie, which
Yes.
probably people remember more. They want to go back to it and they realize, yeah, it was good
Yeah.
after some time. So that is it. But yeah, again, it is a very good tip, and I hope people get more curious because that's the ask of the time, and we see more authentic content. With
Yes.
that being said, thanks a lot, Mohit. Again, it's always pleasure
Yeah.
connecting with you, and wishing
Same
you
here.
best for 2025.
Same to you. Thank you, Abhinav, for having me, and see you in the next one.
Sure.